All right, do a quick review from where we were yesterday. We're going to catch up on our notes for today, and then we're going to continue to move on. Again, I repeat, if you are kind of stuck with things and you're not really understanding things, this Study Jams video really does give you the crux of the stuff that you need, the basics. It does not talk a lot about acquired traits, which are things that they're going to ask you about. So it's not the only thing that you need to know, but it's definitely something that you might want to think about as we move through. Again, genetics. We took those notes yesterday. We wrote those on our anchor chart, which I've had to move up here. And that is the study of how traits are passed on from parents to their offspring. And that weird word offspring is just the kids of the parents. And we talked about that yesterday. I do want to mention this again with characteristics. We did say yesterday the characteristics that we are talking about are things that you can see. Not I'm kind and I'm nice and I'm a good friend. Those are characteristics, yes. But like your physical characteristics, how tall you are, what color your skin is, what color your hair is, what color your eyes are, the shape of your nose. Do you have freckles? Do you not have freckles? Later on the day, do you have a widow's peak? Do you not have a widow's peak? Are your earlobes attached? Are they detached? We're going to look at all those things. Does anybody in here have a cleft chin? I don't even know what that is right now, but you'll learn about it here in just a few minutes. It is. So we're going to talk about those things and look at them and take our notes as we move through today. Heredity. If we all remember, this is one of our least favorite words on the vocabulary game that we've been playing. In heredity and genetics, other than genetics being the study of, it's the same thing. Heredity is just how traits are passed from the parent to the offspring. That could be a human, that could be an animal, that could be a plant. Parents pass along certain genetic information to their children. I am not going to plant a sunflower seed and expect like a zebra to come out of the ground. No one in here, maybe no one in here, expects a zebra to come out of the ground when you plant a sunflower seed. You're like, oh, that's going to be a sunflower. It's going to be tall. It's going to have a very long stem. The flower's going to be yellow. It's going to have giant seeds that are very good when you put seasoning on it, even when you're playing baseball or softball. Like, you know what's going to happen because it's the things that are passed from the parent on to the child, even when it's plants. Traits. I keep saying traits are passed down, Elijah. I keep saying parents give you your traits. If you don't know what a trait is, well, we're in trouble. Those are the physical things that you can describe about yourself. My height, my eye color, my hair color. If I'm a plant, what color flower am I going to have? Well, I'm going to get that from my parent, right? If I'm an animal, how long is my tail? How short is my tail? Depends on what kind of animal you are and what if you get from your parent. Get up here. Traits. Again, you have to know what they are. They are very, very important. That really is like a very key concept for you to understand because there are some traits about you that you did not get from your parents, and we'll get to that today. If anybody in here has a scar, you weren't born with that. Like, if you know people with, nobody in 5th grade has tattoos. We're not Tony Baloney. Like, if you have a tattoo, you were not born with that. I have kids that have dyed their hair. You're not born with that. That's something that happens after you were born. But the basic things about us and about animals and about plants, they come from our parents, which is something that we definitely have to remember. And this is not working. All right, let's go back to this. We'll do it this way. We watched this video yesterday. That's awesome. Genes. The second most missed word today on our vocabulary. Genes, and I do like the new way we define this. I mean, the old definition, characteristics that determine what traits you'll have, that's great. The instructions inside of your cells that tell you what traits you will have. Inside of the cells that made up your eye, what kind of color eyes you're going to have. Inside the cells that made up your skin, what color skin you're going to have. The instructions inside of this to tell us how tall or how short we're going to be. All of those things are inside of our cells, and those are from the genes that we have. Chromosomes, took that off. We don't have to memorize that anymore because that's a little too deep for us. You'll get into that when you get into like middle school and high school. 23 pairs of chromosomes, 46 in total. For humans, it's different for other things, but we don't have to memorize that anymore. This is where you guys were telling me we needed to pick up with today because I don't think we got quite to this yesterday, and that's okay. We'll get there today, and we'll take these notes, and we will be fine. Dominant versus recessive genes are very important. And so, as we're talking about these things, there are some things that are very dominant. And if something is dominant in life, it's going to overpower other things. Sometimes people come to school, right? And there might be all sorts of smells going around the classroom, especially if you're sitting at lunch and you're eating lunch, right? Some of us might smell the corn, some of us might smell the pizza, some of us might smell chocolate milk. But the second somebody sprays that terrible hand sanitizer and starts to do this, everyone smells hand sanitizer, right? Because that is a more dominant odor. It takes over the other things. This is very similar. Dominant genes are going to take over. They are going to show themselves even if there's just one of them. We remember the video from yesterday. The one sister had brown eyes. The other sister had green eyes. Well, because the one sister got that brown eye dominant gene from her dad, she is going to show brown eyes. The only way that other sister was able to show green eyes is she that's the second thing, 2 of the recessive genes. So our first notes today are going to be dominant trait and recessive trait. I'm going to open that up a little bit so that you can get those 2 down. Dominant trait. This happens because a dominant gene will always show up because it overpowers recessive genes. Recessive traits only show up when there are 2 recessive genes together because it is not as powerful. All right, dominant traits and recessive traits. We have covered that and talked about that. We'll kind of get a little bit more into like different kinds of traits as we move forward. Again, I don't necessarily know that you need to memorize that blue eyes are recessive and brown eyes are dominant. And like those, like if we need to, we'll get into that. But for now, you just need to know dominant traits will always show up because they have a dominant gene that overpowers the recessive gene. Recessive traits will not show up unless you have 2 recessive genes, then it shows up. And other than that, we are good. I'm going to have to come back and watch this with you once we finish filming this because I can't play this, copyright laws, you know that. All right, inherited traits. Yesterday, I don't know who it was. It was somebody at your table, it was first, second, or third class, that kept asking me, Mr. Williams, what does that ETC mean? When you're writing, you'll write stuff and stop and say, was that you? Yeah. This is why when I said inherited traits, and I said like eye color, hair color, height, etc., because I don't want to write all of that down in one list. Right? It would take far too long to write down all of these inherited traits. Now, we can spend a little bit of time and look at these. Now, do you get your eye color from your parents? Skin color, hair color, curly or straight hair, normally. Not I get up in the morning and straighten my hair. That's not different. You straighten your hair in the morning? No, it's naturally straight. Then you're good. I know I was talking to a girl over here. She straightens her hair. That's not different. Do you curl your hair? Or is it naturally like that? Natural, you're awesome. So like what you normally do with your hair. Dimples, these like indentions in your cheeks. Anybody here have dimples? Dad has some? All right. Freckles, we know what freckles are. We know what height is. Now, these are new words. Attached and detached earlobes, widow's peak, like the way we clasp our hands and cleft chin might be some new terms to us, and we will talk about that as we move forward. All right, here we go. Listen, let's take a look at this first one. I'll come back again. We got to watch all this after. Now, when you hear the words attached versus detached earlobes, are your ears attached to the side of your head, or is there a little bit of a dangly part? Again, It's just an example of an inherited trait that some of us might not be used to hearing. I can't tell. You've got your thumbs on your ears. All right. All right. Attached and detached earlobes. Again, they're not going to ask you the deep science of why it happens. They're not going to ask you to figure out the probability of it. That word might show up as an answer choice. It might show up in a sentence. It might show up in a paragraph. If you've never heard it or seen it, you're going, I don't know what that is. Now that you know what it is, your ears are either attached or not attached to the side of your head. You're good. That's about as deep as I'm going with that. Widow's peak. Everybody see that little V shape that he has in his forehead right here? That is a widow's peak. That is something that you inherit. It would be very interesting to see. I know he's got a kid about your age, roughly your age, to see if his kid has the same widow's peak. I know him and his brothers do. They have the same thing. Maybe. I don't know. I can't really see from here. Shh. All right. Now, that's another example. Here's another one. Okay. Okay. Now, I know it's hilarious. Now, do you see that in, again, yes, it's a ridiculous example. Do you see that indentation in his chin? Yes. That's not normal. That's ridiculous. That is a cleft chin. Do you know what it is now? Yeah. Yes, we do. Do I need to spend an atrocious amount of time on it? No, I do not. All right, that brings us to learned behaviors. Lindsay, I don't know if there's an easier definition than learned behaviors. If you learned it, it is a learned behavior. So let's go ahead and take our notes on learned behavior. I put inherited trait on there and learned behavior, so you can go ahead and do both of those. I will pause the video. All right, again, I really do believe this is the easiest of all the things that we study. If it's something that you learn, if it's something that an animal can learn, it is a learned behavior. That's pretty simple. Acquired traits. Acquired traits are things that happen to you after you were born. If you dye your hair like this lady here, that is an acquired trait. You are not born with hair like that. Tattoos. Tattoos happen after you were born. You might have a parent with 73 tattoos. They are not going to give birth to a child with tattoos. You cannot pass that along because it happens to you after you were born. It's not part of your genetics. Scars. Scars happen after you were born. This is very important, and I need you all to listen to this one because people miss this one on the test all the time. It asks a question and it says something to the effect of, which of the following is not inherited? And it says, nose shape, eye color, long hair, skin color. And my kids sit there and they're like, well, you get your nose shape from your parents, you get your eye color, you get your skin color, you get your hair from your parents. I don't know what the answer to this is. Long hair. Is that a choice? Long hair is a choice. You choose to have long hair or to shave it all off. That's a very tricky question. So be ready for that one when it shows up. A callus on your hands. I can't show you because it would not be appropriate, but right here, which is where my pencil hits when I am writing. It is very rough right there because I have a callus on my hands. That I was not born with that. It happened after I was born. It was acquired, which is here. Acquired. Again, acquired traits. We have the notes here. They happen to you during life, after you were born. You're not born with scars. You're not born with tattoos. And remember, that hair length one is very, very important. Pretty certain this is the last thing we're really going to get into. Then we got to go back and watch videos together. Oh, this is when I'm like going over stuff in science. one more page, maybe. There we go. Instinct, our last thing today. Birds know to fly south. They're not taught that.